organization that supplies you on a daily basis with K through 12 education and procures health care for almost half of Delaware and is in charge of roads and infrastructure and provides that very basic commodity called safety and security in our corrections, in our courts, and our cops. So the state government does a lot of really important stuff for you every day that we don't necessarily see on the national news, or and don't have always the bandwidth for thinking about who's really responsible for that. But it's the state government. And in your state government, we don't vote for just one president in the executive branch like we do at the national level. We actually get the opportunity to vote for 6 statewide officers. Everyone thinks the governor runs everything, and the governor does have the lion's share of the executive responsibility of state government. But you actually get to vote for a state auditor. You get to vote for an attorney general. You get to vote for an insurance commissioner. You get to vote for a lieutenant governor, and you get to vote for a state treasurer. All of whom have separate and distinct responsibilities as executives, independent executives, on par with the governor. People all the time, even the newsroom, printed a story one time and said, I work for the governor. What the heck? No, I work for you. I work for you. I'm independently elected, I work for you. And the core thing of what I do, and it reminds me, since I haven't been about the politicking in earnest the last 3.5 years, I've done what you paid me to do, which is go in and run the state government and run the state treasurer's office. But the last several months, since I've been out and about more often, and those of you who didn't attend the state fair or haven't been out to the Blueberry Festival or been anywhere else where you've seen me in a dunk tank or doing any other sort of crazy stuff, I'm much more in contact during this time period than I have been the last 3.5 years with just our citizens, ordinary people that do remind me that it's not obvious to them what the state treasurer does for them every day. And it's one thing when I speak to a group of people like the Rotary down here, or one of our many Rotaries, or I talk to a chamber somewhere, or I talk to a homeowners association, and I got 15 or 20 minutes and we really get into the weeds and talk about specifically, what is my agency up to? How does the state treasurer deliver value for you as a Delaware? Why should you care who the state treasurer is? But being in this time period, I have to remember that I got to get that soundbite across a lot more quickly. And so I think each of us, and I'll leave this thought with you, in your daily lives know that there's many little anecdotes or principles or things we carry around with us. But one of the things I think all of us know, whether it's in our personal lives or in our professional lives, if we run a small business or part of a nonprofit, is we got to stretch every dollar, right? We've all said that to ourselves, right? We got to stretch every dollar. We got to make every dollar work as much as it possibly can. Is that a partisan comment? Who would disagree with that comment? No one I've met in 3.5 years. Getting the most value for every dollar we take from our citizenry for these valuable services that I articulated that we provide is not a partisan concept. But we don't have an organization today that is built around that principle. State government doesn't operate like a business. People always say, Ken, you spent your whole life in business and finance. Just run the government like a business. Well, government doesn't have willing customers. Government doesn't have competitors. The Maryland treasurer has not once in 3.5 years tried to do a hostile takeover of my office. Hasn't happened. Not going to happen. So we have to rely on the systems we built for ourselves in state government. We have to create the incentives that otherwise occur in the private sector as what we call creative destruction, that make us get better every day, that make every company that's out there competing for your hard-earned dollars get better. Those are the systems in state government that we have to design. Who does that? The people in central government, your state treasurer. So stretching every dollar and making sure that we become an accountable organization to our citizenry is part of what I do. It makes every agency, regardless of what they do, healthcare, roads, infrastructure, safety, security, education, it makes them stretch your dollar. Okay, it's one core function that I think of as a very high level. And the second other little principle I'll leave with you is we all know this one too. How many times have we been penny wise and pound foolish? You know, sort of the flip side of making every dollar go as far as possible. You can't be penny wise and pound foolish. We are amazingly not penny wise and pound foolish in state government sometimes. But when we do focus, it's on the small-scale, short-term stuff. Rarely do we engage in a discussion about where we're going to be as a people at the long term, at the highest level, to think about these organizational challenges that we have that aren't just today's challenges, or trying to find a nickel under the rug to solve this year's budget, but to make sure that we're on a sustainable path for the long term. That's also the job I take very seriously as the highest elected fiscal officer in the state of Delaware. So you keep those two little paradigms in mind. If you want a strategic CFO for the state of Delaware who is thinking about how we stretch every dollar, but also thinking about how we never want to invest and we're not penny wise and pound foolish. Those are the two sort of, I guess, homilies or other sort of thoughts I try to convey to people when they ask me, why the heck should I care who the state treasurer is? And of course, you know, to me, it's just finance matters. Finance matters to all of us. So that's my governing message and what excites me about the job, and there is endless opportunity to get better at that, which is why I'm asking for another 4 years and your support for another 4 years. I'm not going to get into the weeds of all the accomplishments that we've achieved in the last 3.5 years. You can read about them on my website. And as I said, you have a very important decision to make tonight about these two gentlemen. But I'll give you one last thought about the politicking for this race. I said to a couple of friends on the way in that you know, I've been focused on being a state treasurer. I've been working at the job. I spend my time in Dover. I run an agency. I work in the center of government. But more recently, I've dusted off my spurs because I have to run for this office. I have to win the support of the people if I want to govern for another 4 years. And what I've been recollected to, other than just the difficulty of conveying to people what it is the state treasurer does, is that it's fundamentally important. It's fundamentally important to remind people that you only get to vote in an election once every 4 years for your state treasurer. And I have an opponent, just like I did last time when I ran, major party opponent, Democrat, who has exactly zero financial background. To run for an office that controls money flows of $10 billion, oversees $2 billion of debt, oversees $2 billion of our cash, oversees retirement plans and college savings plans of $2 billion, and has exactly no prior financial experience managing money, acting as a chief financial officer, or performing any fiscal capacity. I think she's probably a very talented person in what she does, but she works in the medical field. She's a physician's assistant. But that does not qualify her to be state treasurer. And again, I don't know her personally, but as a Delawarean, I'm thinking about 930,000 people that rely on this job, and 36,000 state employees that work for this organization. There is something fundamentally unserious about her candidacy, and that, frankly, has gotten into my craw. So I will be campaigning hard to be your state treasurer for another 4 years, because this office and these people. So I will stop there, and I will welcome Mistress Bedola up. But before I do, James, I just want to say one last thing about the primary race. And I really hope tonight, I know that some of you are supporting either Rob or Gene, and I just want to convey one little anecdote when I ran the first time and I had a primary opponent. And those of you who don't know Harvey Kent, who was retired from the state as a state representative from the Milford area, is just one of the best men on the planet. Just a solid, good man. And what he said to me early on when I had my primary contest is he said, well, I'm from Southern Delaware, so they call me Kenny. He said, Kenny, I'm not against anyone, but I'm for you. And I think it's possible to be for someone without being against the other person. So these two gentlemen are working I see them both in the field working relentlessly. I hope you give both of them a warm welcome, and don't be shy about supporting one, but you don't have to tear down everything. Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, as we get ready to welcome Jim, all you folks in the back who want a chair, come on and sit down. There's a couple open seats. Have a resting, relaxing spot. You don't need to. It's my pleasure to introduce James Bedola. He's running for auditor. He got a late start and hence hasn't had a chance to address us at all. And through the good graces of Ken and their candidates on stage, they've all given up a little time so we can say hi to you. Okay.
Thank you, Don. Hello, Sussex County. I'm half tempted to start off with the same joke that I did at the 38th RD dinner, so I will actually. So I'm originally from Sussex County as well, Sussex County, New Jersey. But it's absolutely gorgeous, very rural, very similar to Sussex County, Delaware. And you know, when I was growing up in high school, I have a confession to make. I did not say to myself, I want to be state auditor growing up. But, you know, when I think about the trajectory of my life, when 9/11 happened, 2 months later, I enlisted in the Army. A year later, I had to drop out of University of Delaware to go to Iraq. Thank you. and I think about, I felt called to serve. In a similar way, I feel called to serve as your next state auditor. As Ken was saying, this state it's unconscionable for me for when Democrats control the governor's mansion, the House, and the Senate, for us to just vacate the fiscal watchdog office and let them have it. We can't do that. We cannot do that. I worked in finance in New York for a few years right after I graduated college. I investigated countless financial crimes as a Newark police officer. I have my MBA from Wilmington University, and I thought Ken was actually talking about my potential Democratic opponent when he was talking about how they have no bones being in the race, but there must be something in the water. I don't know what it is. But either way, it's great to be down in Sussex County. I really appreciate the opportunity to say hello. I have a couple yard signs back there. I would love if we could get them up in Sussex County. I'll be standing back there. Thank you for having me. And I want to finish on a similar note. I think we're also lucky for Gene and Rob. We couldn't be luckier to have two classier guys at the top of our ticket. So thank you, Gene and Rob, and best of luck tonight.
Okay, as I take care of some admin details here, I wanted to touch on something that they said. We have several primaries. Unfortunately, one of the things that happens in a primary is people get extremely involved in supporting one candidate over another. And the candidates so far have been very good to keep things policy-based and not ad hominem, because the only path to victory for Ken Simpler, for James Spadola, or Lee Murphy is if every Republican in Sussex County turns out in November and votes. It cannot be won given the preponderance of Democrats registered up north. That's Democrats, not Democratic candidates, Democrats. That party is not Democratic at all. So, as you sit here tonight and listen to these people, you're performing one of the most important duties of a U.S. citizen, which is choosing who you're going to vote for. You need to make an informed decision. That's why we went into all this trouble. So, questions have been taken. There's multiple questions. They've all been kind of lumped together into one. So you may have put some words in exactly, and you don't hear those exact words. That's all right. The meeting will be timed. Candidates will get a yellow flag when you have X amount of time left to speak. They alternate. The stage position and who speaks first and last was decided by coin toss earlier here tonight in front of the podium. And with that, I'm going to get this microphone up onto the stage and we'll get underway. And again, there's still seats open. You guys don't have to stand until you fall over. We don't need an ambulance coming for somebody because they hit this concrete floor. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mike, our host tonight, who is really
Don, thanks so much, and thanks for having me out. I'm Mike Bradley for Mornings at 92.7 WGMB. I want to wish everybody a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this U.S. Senate Candidate Forum hosted by the Sussex County Republican Committee. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank both of our U.S. Senate candidates for their participation, both Gene and Rob, as well as Delaware State Treasurer Ken Simpler, who was on just a few minutes ago for his opening presentation, and our timekeepers tonight, Elena Keeley and Lisa Hudson-Briggs. Most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight to listen to two fine candidates, learn about the unique platforms, and hopefully gain some insight that you'll need to make an informed decision at the polls on primary day. We're getting very close to that date, as you know. We have a lot to get to tonight, so we want to get started. Again, with our timekeepers, the yellow card for the opening statements will mean minutes left. The red, of course, will stop in both cases. And for questions, the yellow means you have 30 seconds left. Now, earlier this evening, there was a coin toss to determine the order of opening statements. Mr. Arlett will speak first. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for their opening statement. So let's begin. Rob?
I want to, they got you. Is it on?
let's make sure yours is working. I can pass mine on to you, Rob, if need be. Oh, it is not. Well, what I can do in the meantime?
Stop that clock.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have my thing over here. We'll use this at the time being.
There you go. Technology is wonderful when it works. It is an honor to be here. My name is Rob Arlett, and I am running to be your next U.S. Senator from the great state of Delaware. And I want to welcome all of you here tonight. It's so really critical, so very important for all of us to be educated about what this race is all about, who you're selecting, who you're voting, and who's ultimately going to represent this great state in the U.S. Senate. It's like coming back home. I have been in these seats many times over the years as a ED in the party, as a representative district here in this county, and now as an elected official in our great state and in this great county. Why am I running to be your next U.S. Senator? Quite simply, it's very easy. We have somebody who is in office today who does not represent you, does not represent this state, period. That is why I am running. It's very simple. It's very easy. We have somebody who's been in office for 42 years. He is a lifelong elected official. We need term limits. He is the epitome of term limits. I believe in term limits because I'm up for re-election. My current position, I am not running for that seat. I could have legally, but I chose not to do that. I did not get involved to get a job. I got involved to make a difference. That's what you expect of me, and that's exactly what I am, and that's exactly who I am. I want to welcome my lovely wife here tonight of almost 29 years. Thank you for having me down here. Our eldest son is also over here, Justin over there with a camera, who's 27 years old. Thank you, Justin. And we also have a treat because our 19-year-old is here with us, which I'm really excited about. And he zipped away from the United States Naval Academy to be with us over here, and he and his friend at the Naval Academy. So thank you for being here. That's why we do what we do, is because of our family. But that's why we're running. We are running to put courage back in our U.S. Senate. We are there to provide leadership. The Congress is not doing their job. They have forgotten about the American people. They have forgotten about Delaware. Senator Carper has forgotten about Delaware. And we will put our first state first. We will put our families first. And we will put our country first yet again. So we look forward to the conversation tonight. God bless you, and thank you again for being here.
I think this is working. Everyone hear me? Yes. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Sussex County Republican Committee. I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm Gene Truono, the other candidate running for the U.S. Senate. I think it's important that we really focus on the issues that are so important to all of us as Delawareans. I think it's incumbent upon all of you, and actually you all have the harder job than what Rob and I have, and that's to decide which one of the two of us you think we need to put up against our senior Senator Tom Harper, or if there's an upset, his opponent, Kerry Harris, both of which have said they're extremely progressive. There are three issues that I think are really important to me, and while there's been some discussion about the fact that I'm not a lifelong Republican, I want you to pay close attention to how I respond to the issues and listen to the points that I think are important to me, the conservative values that we believe in, and the conservative values that we do not have representation in Washington today. I'm a lifelong Delawarean, so I know this state and I love this state. But the issues that I think are really important in this cycle are the tax reform. I believe that the administration got it right. We're seeing tremendous growth in the economy. We want to see that continue. There's a discussion around tax reform too. Both our Democratic opponents would repeal the tax reform. I think I'm going to give them both a copy of Economics 101 because they obviously do not understand how tax cuts work. And they would repeal it. And I don't think we want that to happen, not for Delawareans or this country, to stunt the growth that we're seeing. The second thing is, they would not, and have both come out against, approving President Trump's candidate for the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh. From my perspective, the only litmus test we should have for any Supreme Court justice is if they're a constitutionalist. And I think if you read Justice or Judge Kavanaugh's opinions, he does follow the Constitution. Do we agree with him on everything? Maybe not. But would he make a great Supreme Court justice? Absolutely. And lastly, I think the one thing that's most important is about health care. Because the Affordable Care Act has failed this country. It's failing all of us in Delaware. Both our Democratic opponents want to offer Medicare for all or single payer. There have been recent studies that come out, and I'm sure this will probably come up later in the debate, that said it will cost us $32 trillion over the next 10 years. I don't know how we would pay for that, but for the fact that same study said we'll have to raise taxes on everyone, double taxes for every class, and the corporate tax cuts, which will destroy the growth of this economy. So if you want a principled conservative who believes in fiscal responsibility, I'm the person that can represent you in Washington. Thank you.
All right, we'll begin with our first question this evening. And Gene, this is starting off with you. And you touched a little bit upon it in your opening statement. President Trump has appointed Judge Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. Tom Carper has joined the Schumer and Pelosi party in resisting. How would you get Democrat senators to confirm?
Well, I think it's a battle, obviously, but there are, in this election cycle, and this probably will be decided, Mitch McConnell has said he wants to put this Supreme Court justice up before the midterm election, and I think that's probably going to happen. There's procedural rules that they'll have to go through, but there are 6 Democratic senators that are in Republican-leaning states. The Democratic senator from West Virginia has inclined to say that he might vote. The 2 Republicans that are holdout, Senator McCaskill, Senator Collins from Maine, and Senator McCaskill from Alaska, thank you, have said they're on the fence. And I think they're going to use the litmus test that I just pointed out. And the litmus test is this individual a constitutionalist? Because not one judge or one justice decides the future. Not one judge or one justice is going to be able to overturn precedent. And if they are constitutionalists and they will follow precedent, we will see a conservative court, but we will see a conservative court that values the principles of our Constitution. And that's how I think we will be able to get Justice Kavanaugh across the finish line. Thank you.
Well, the answer was, how can I get the Democrats, right, to vote, is that correct, for the nominee? It's by beating Senator Carper. That's how I will do that, because he is a Democrat. He has already stated that he will not support the president's nominee, despite the fact they haven't even had a hearing. That's what we have in Washington right now from Delaware, is somebody who is not in tune, not respecting the people of this great state, but only his party. So to answer your question, it's really simple. I've actually been asked by the White House to be able to provide my opinion, and I'm going to be submitting that this week. Because I believe all about the application of the Constitution and not legislatively speaking. So as a U.S. Senator, I will confirm anybody who will apply the Constitution as written, plain and simple. You can count on that. Thank you.
The second question we'll start, Rob, it's going to go back to you, and we'll start with the fact that Senator Tom Carper opposes President Trump's efforts to correct unfair trade practices with China, Mexico, the EU. What should the U.S. trade policy be?
U.S. trade policy needs to be, and it will be, America first. Plain and simple. I mean, that is the #1 mindset that one has to have in this America, in this U.S. Senate, and eventually as the president has already done. So in my mindset, as we move forward, it has to be America first. Does that mean it's not a chess game? Does that mean the president's not going to do certain things to get these other countries to move? And eventually we're going to get what we need in order for the American worker to be at work, for our companies to stay here in America? I think the mindset has to be America first. Because when Americans are working, that is the best incentive for our families to stay together. That's for the best incentives. I think we're still working on technology or something here. But bottom line, I believe the best entitlement in this country is a job for Americans. And that's what we will do. And we just lost this mic. No, we didn't. Yes, we did. I don't know what we're doing here. In any event, the message for me to you is America first, plain and simple. Thank you.
Do you have a 60-second response?
So Tom Carper's been pretty clear. He is opposing or resisting everything that this administration and this president is doing. And I think it's time we retire our senior senator, because I don't think he represents the people of the state of Delaware. In terms of trade policy, In terms,
Use the first.
in terms, can you hear me? How about now? In terms of trade policy, I think the administration has gotten it right. Donald Trump doesn't want to upset the cart. He doesn't want to hurt the economy. He doesn't want to hurt the stock market. What he did in Europe, he came away with a deal to create parity. We're going to go to zero-based tariffs and restrictions in trade with Europe. The next step is to go to Mexico. They're working on the Mexican trade deal as well. Then he's going to go to Canada, and then he's going to go to Japan. And where does that leave us left? It's China. Well, if he does this type of strategy and is successful, we'll be able to squeeze China to get parity with China. And I think it's a brilliant strategy. If executed, we'll wait and see. But I think it's the right strategy to take. Thank you.
All right, the next question, and we'll go back to Gene to start. President Trump has killed the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, as you know. Senator Tom Carper disagrees. What do you think our position should be? Sure. I'll start over again. President Trump has killed the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. Senator Tom Carper disagrees. What do you think our position should be?
Well, this is... Hello? Can you hear me now? Well, this is the position that I have fully supported all along. I never agreed with the Iran nuclear deal. Why would we give hundreds of billions of dollars to a regime that shouts death to America? Why would we not continue the sanctions that we had on Iran? Why would we give them a pathway to a nuclear weapon? The fact that the president backed out of the deal, I think, was the smartest move from a foreign policy and stabilization of the Middle East that we've seen in decades. The sanctions do work. I spent 30 years in financial services. I implemented sanctions for JP Morgan and other major financial institutions. Duly applied, and having our allies join with us will be an effective approach to squeeze Iran to stop this threat of nuclear proliferation in the Middle East. And let's just be clear, we're seeing this type of policy work. The president did this in North Korea. We have not seen one ballistic missile test since he squeezed them with sanctions. Those sanctions are still on North Korea. He also put sanctions on China as well to help stabilize the region. Nikki Haley, the ambassador to the UN, has been following the administration's policies, I think, brilliantly in getting our allies to support us. So using diplomacy and sanctions and tough talk seems to be working. Seems to be working that hasn't ever been done by any of our prior presidents who are politicians who do double talk and double speak. This is a president who is not a politician. This is a president who is not double talk. He's direct. You know exactly where he stands. And his approach, although widely criticized, has seemed to be very effective, and I think we'll see the same effects that we're seeing in North Korea in Iran.
Candidate Arlett asked me to repeat the question, and I'll do so as he has a 60-second response. President Trump has killed the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. Senator Carper disagrees. What do you think our position should be?
To replace Senator Carper. What more needs to be said? That is why we have somebody who is not representing this country. That's why he's not representing Delaware families at all. He is removed from reality. He needs to be replaced, and we will beat him come November. And that's ultimately what must happen and why we will win. Because he's at, and it's sad, because he is somebody who was worn the uniform. He's just had his time that's gone beyond where he needs to be. And I think that's sad, and I wish he would have not ran again, but he chose to. But I believe totally it's sanctions, but it's with sanctions with enforcement. That's the difference. He is somebody that is a leader and somebody who has courage. I've said it before, you've heard me say that before. We have a president who is for America first. He is a leader and he's a person of courage, and I support him and his agenda. Absolutely. Thank you.
Our next question, and Rob will start back with you. Gulf Tainer has leased the Port of Wilmington for 50 years. There are questions regarding its ownership. Should the federal government put a hold on the deal pending investigation?
Yes. Number one responsibility of the federal government or any government, be it state, be it county, or be it city, is public safety. I have read the concerns, and I would agree with those concerns. It's all about terrorism, and it's all about protection of the American people, and for that matter, Delawareans. That port is right at the mouth, or I should say at the end of the Delaware Bay, right up in Wilmington, and we have to ensure we know what we've got. You would all would agree with that. So I totally support the fact that ultimately it will be the federal government's decision whether or not they have to sign off on that final approval. So yes, public safety absolutely is the number one role and responsibility before the commerce. Before the commerce. If we don't know who we got and why they're here, commerce does not matter. We know that because of what happened at 9/11. 9/11, after the terrorists did what they did, look what happened to our economy. So again, public safety, number one responsibility at all levels of government. Thank you.
Gene, 60 seconds.
I absolutely agree. When I was at J.P. Morgan, we built a compliance program in compliance with the USA Patriot Act. And the requirements of the USA Patriot Act were to do strict due diligence on all foreign correspondent banks. The fact that we haven't done that vetting for this entity is really frightening to me, because there are a lot of connections that have been put in the press. We need to fully understand those, we need to fully vet them, and we can do that. So I think a breathing period would be a smart thing to do. It always seems to be that when we have a big deal like this that will help Delaware, we'd all want to support that. But we shouldn't go in with our eyes closed. We should go in with our eyes wide open. Just like Bloom Energy, if anybody's been following that, that's really been a blue doggle, as it's been called, about how taxpayers, the Delaware taxpayers, have been hurt by that, and Tom Carper supported that deal. So I think doing the due diligence is the right thing to do, and I think we can do that effectively, and at least be rest assured that this is a good deal or not.
All right, our next question, and Gene, we'll start back with you on this one. President Trump champions choice for veterans' medical treatment. Will this help or harm Delaware vets?
So I hired a disabled veteran. He's the first hire that we had in our campaign, and he has introduced me to a whole bunch of veterans. Thank you, and thank you all for your service. And he's introduced me to a whole bunch of veterans as well as the heads of the VFW and American Legion. And I've talked to veterans up and down this state. And let's just be clear, the veterans and the VFW do not support the merger of the DOD and the VA system. Veterans have unique needs that are unlike any of the rest of us, and we need to keep the VA system going. There's mixed results on the choice program, although most say that it has helped for routine medical treatments, and they would support it, but there needs to be some fixing to that system, and I think the choice system, along with the VA system combined, will help veterans give the kind of care that they need and the care that they deserve, and I will always support those types of programs that the veterans want, not what some bureaucrat or some consulting firm in Washington thinks will be better.
2 things, Rob, 60 seconds.
It's very simple. Anybody who raised that right hand, we are committed to them for life, in my opinion. As a veteran, as a son of a veteran, as a brother of a veteran, and now a father, somebody who's at the Naval Academy, it is really simple. And I'm listening to our veterans because I've already had a town hall specific about this exact same thing. And what they have told me is, yes, all veterans must and should have choice of location anywhere they go. I believe that 100%, no question about it. Get rid of the red tape. The government is the problem and not the solution. They need to remove themselves from the issue, and let's focus on the veteran and not the bureaucracy. Very simple. That's number one. Number two is that we must ensure that they have full access to mental care and health. We must do that. Number three thing is that we will do for our veterans is create a mentorship program so they have a much easier, much better transition moving into the civilian world, because they're used to a chain of command. We will just shift that over to the public side, or private side. Thank you.
All right, at this time, gentlemen, we're going to take a 20-minute recess, and then there'll be a brief GOP meeting during the break, and then we'll come back with segment 2, which will be 5 more questions. Done.
Okay. Real quickly, we've got a very short business meeting. There are some things that require an executive committee vote. We're going to do them quickly. All that I ask, non-members, stay where you are. Just, if we call a vote, don't vote. Now, routinely, this is the point of the day where I would say, hey, there's a hand going around. We need your donations. We don't need your donations. We're not here for donations tonight. We're here for the candidates. So instead of opening your wallets for us, open your wallets up for one or more of these candidates. They really need your support. And with that, we'll get started. Linda, do we have a quorum? We do have a quorum. Okay, minutes and financial reports were distributed by email to the members. Are there any changes necessary?
No.
Good, in that case, I'll entertain a motion.
Vote we accept.
Is there a second? Second, moved and seconded to accept the minutes of the financial report as distributed by email. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, passes. Next order of business, ED confirmations.
Okay, we had 4 confirmations that were scheduled for tonight. If the following people are here, would you please stand? Ray Bunting, Robin Bunting, Billy Carroll, Wendy Griffin. Some of the people were already standing, so. Are the Buntings here? Billy?
No, Billy's not here.
Wendy Griffin?
Yes.
Okay. Entertain a motion then to accept Wendy Griffin as an EDC in the 38th District. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
39.
Oh, 39, excuse me. Okay, 39, Wendy.
We'll take them.
Are there any nominations from the floor?
Dennis Ward for the 38.
Dennis Ward,
Ward.
you have his application, you can get to me. Any others? Yes.
Jay Young.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Jay Young. Jay Young.
Oh, Jay Jones.
No.
Young.
For the 20th. The mic.
Jay Young, the 20th. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so the 3 that were not in attendance tonight, if they are at our next meeting, they will have an opportunity to be confirmed again. Wendy is confirmed, and if Dennis and Jay are at our next meeting, they can be confirmed at that meeting as well. Thank you.
Okay, now we're down to good of the order. I've got a couple announcements at our advisory board meeting last week. 2 of the RDCs brought forth the motion that we had an executive committee meeting next month, given all the work that needs to be done between now and election day. That passed unanimously. So second Monday of September, just after the primary, we'll be right here. We'll have candidates to speak with us and do regular business. Second thing that the advisory board decided to do, the executive committee will co-host a Get Out the Vote event with Republicans for Sussex. That will take place at the end of the month. There'll be more information. It will be free, open to the public. And if it starts to sound like a broken record, it's to make sure that Republicans come out, put the primary behind them, and vote in November. It's got to happen. Senator Brian Richardson, running for re-election in the 21st, down in the southwest corner, has a Democrat candidate who is already campaigning fairly hard. There will be a debate between the 2 of them on September the 11th, anniversary of September the 11th, at the Laurel Library. If I can stretch my arm out, between 6 and 7:30. Brian would request your support, even if you're not in the 21st District, come out and help support him in that debate. And with that, I'll entertain another motion. I'm sorry, is there an announcement?
Time's up.
Good evening. The Sussex County Republican Women's Club is holding its fashion show and sweet tea social on September the 16th at the Mulligan's Point in Georgetown. We have tickets, and the tickets are $35 a piece. There's going to be entertainment and fashions from it's both women's and men's fashions, and we'd love to see you all there. So please, if you want to get in touch with me, my email is mbooker3@icloud.com, or you can get information off of our website. Thank you.
Okay, great. I will now entertain a motion. It's been moved that we adjourn. Any seconds? Okay. Moved and seconded. In favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. One last thing. We have some guests from Kent County. In honor of them, I'm going to channel my counterpart up there, the good Hank. Now, Hank would say, none of you guys are going to leave the room until those candidates are $500 richer. But I'm not going to do that. But I do ask you to support these candidates with anything that you can. And if it can't be money, then with your time and effort. With that, hit the head real fast. We'll be back here shortly for phase 2. Introduce yourself if you're from County Council District 4 or 5. Talk to those candidates and enjoy yourself. We'll be back again soon. And I apologize for the microphones. They worked fine at 5 o'clock.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. 1, 2. Check. Check 1, 2. 1, 2, 1. 1. Check 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Test 1, 2, 1, 2.
Someone just asked me, I was like, let me go ask somebody else. Seems to be a lot of excuses in it. I understand health reasons. want my vote? Friends with leads. That mean you're friends with awesome. I'm excited to find that there are venues in Delaware that are positive, that are proactive. Like right now, these chairs are tight. I don't know how you work it. How do you work it out so people feel like they're committed? I do believe they're always I will make you
Folks, we'll be starting again in about 5 minutes, so if you can start making your way back to your seats.
Nice to meet you. My daughter. I only had to listen to her once. Okay, good. My presence alone was
Okay, folks, we're getting ready to start. We direct your attention to Don up front.
All right, so we've done a mic check. I think we're good here. And I know the folks tested these out before tonight, but sometimes things happen. So. But guys, I would ask Rob and Gene, let's do it one more test here just to make sure we're good to go. Test, 1, 2, 3. Good. Hello. Whoa, it's working. All right.
Maybe a little heavy.
We'll keep our fingers crossed that it remains that way. All right, I believe just about everybody's seated. So welcome back to the second half of this U.S. Senate candidate forum hosted by the Sussex County Republican Committee. We're going to resume with the alternating of questions, which means our next question will be directed to Mr. Arlett, who will have 2 minutes. And of course, then Gene will have 60 seconds to respond. And Rob, the question that will start out with you is, how will you keep President Trump building the wall?
It's on. It's on. That was pretty good. I'll bring it down here a little bit. It's a little heavy. The question is, how will I keep President Trump keeping to build the wall, correct? I don't think I need to. I think it's his mission. I think the fact of the matter is, for me, it's bigger than that. It's about border security. As a U.S. Senator, it is about border security at all fronts. The wall is a part of the equation. You all want to feel safe. We as Americans must know who is in this country and why they're in this country. We are a country of immigrants. My wife is one. Many of the people that you know are immigrants. But we are a country of laws first. Are we not? We are a country of laws. So I'm not afraid, and I will take care of the politics, remove the politics from immigration. Shame on Senator Carper for continuing to encourage illegal immigrants to be coming into this state. Shame on him, and he ought to be ashamed of his actions. So that's number 2. We're going to enforce the law. And that's something that's very, very passionate to me. Number 3, I think that we're going to do regarding border security as far as the illegal immigration issue. I will be an advocate, and I will remove the benefits for illegal immigrants, period. I think there's too many loopholes, and we will uncover these loopholes because I just hired a former FBI unit chief who understands about that issue because that's part of his role. And we're going to drain that swamp. We're going to make sure that Americans become first and continue to be first versus all others. And I look forward to building that wall, but most importantly, it's called border security. Thank you.
If the accomplishments of the Trump administration are any reflection of whether or not the wall will be built, I think what this administration and this president has done in a very short period of time, this wall will be built. But I have said this too. I think the important aspect is not just about illegal immigration, but our legal immigration system is broken. There is proposed legislation. It's called the RISE Act. It was drafted by Senators Cotton and Perdue. It includes funding for the wall, but it also includes funding for other things for border security, and it will solve some of the illegal immigration problems. The problem is we don't have enough Democratic senators to vote for it. I mean, we don't have enough at all. So we need to take over the seat from Tom Carper, and we need to get the Democrats off this notion that somehow it's okay to allow for illegal immigrants to come to this country, and somehow that we should abolish ICE. If that's what they're going to run on, good, let them run, because they're going to lose and we're going to win.
Thank you. Next question up, and we'll start back with Gene. What federal regulations do you believe have been most harmful to Delaware's economic growth?
One of the things that I've talked about, and one of the things that really is the reason why I'm running, I spent 30 years in financial services, and I've seen firsthand how overregulation has hurt this country, hurt consumers and small businesses. The financial services industry regulation is one that impacts all of us here in Delaware, because it was booming in the 90s when we passed state laws to impact bringing large financial institutions to the state of Delaware. We have 5 federal regulatory agencies that oversee the financial services industry. Why do we have 5? Why don't we just have 1? It's not about cutting regulations or reducing regulations, although that's a start. It's about supervision. And if we consolidate, the agencies in the banking industry, as an example, we can bring more jobs back to Delaware. There's also a proposal by the Office of the Comptroller of Currency to create a financial technology charter, which will also spur development and growth for financial technology firms to come to Delaware. We have the infrastructure, we have the employee base. Those employees that work for current financial institutions can easily switch over to financial technology industry. There's also another proposal that has come out by Treasury to create a fintech sandbox. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but Singapore has already done this. And I actually went to Singapore and gave them advice on how to do that. The UK is also doing that. China's doing that. We don't want to be last in the next generation of jobs in this country. We should be first. And Delaware can be a leader in these types of high-paying jobs, which can help people get their start in life and help people really bring the economy of the state of Delaware back to what it once was. Thank you.
60 seconds.
I think, whoa, I apologize. The number one regulation, though it's not a regulation, but the number one thing that's most hindering of Delaware is Senator Carper. He is the number one problem with our economies because he's been at the helm in Senate for 18 years. But more specifically, to answer the question, is I've listened to our farmers. As an elected official in Sussex County, the number one industry in our entire state is farming. We are the chicken capital of this country, right in this county. I was at the White House last February of 2017, for the rescinding of the regulations of the waters of the USA. That was a land grab that greatly affected our farmers and the exuberant cost to them doing business. So we were part of that removal that the president had done, and we look forward to continuing to be removing of the regulations so the entrepreneurs and the free enterprise system can grow and foster in the great state of Delaware. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start back with this question for you. We'll start with Rob. How will you help President Trump drain the swamp?
By beating Senator Carper. Plain and simple. Look, we have massive amount of corruption in this state. Everybody in this room knows it. You've heard about it, and we know it. I actually just hired, as I just said earlier, an FBI agent. He is the nationally known as the whistleblower for the FBI. He used to be a unit chief involved in all the background checks. There are tremendous loopholes that exist today. And he knows it. And he's going to help me already. We've already had many conversations. We are going to expose this swamp, not only in this great state of Delaware, because we've been under one-party rule, and that's not good for any transparency. That's not good for any ethics. That's not good for Delawareans. So that's why he is here to help me to expose this, as well as the national level. So bring it on, and we will drain the swamp, not only in the great state of Delaware, but also at the national level. So we look forward to that. Thank you.
60 seconds.
So I think the swamp is broader than what we all really understand. We saw that Peter Strzok was fired today. It took them almost 18 months to fire this guy. Why does it take us 18 months to fire people? In the private sector, if you don't do your job or you are malfeasant, you get fired within a very short period of time. There is some movement in the administration, obviously, to fire people in the VA system. We need to keep doing that. But the swamp runs long and deep. And the swamp, part of the swamp, is career politicians. I'm not a career politician, nor do I aspire to be. I've said that since the very beginning. I want to come to Washington with the experience that I have and bring that experience of the private sector to the federal government. And if more people do that, as we see the tide turning in Washington, we may never drain the swamp completely, but we're going to certainly make significant change in Washington with people with fresh ideas who can help change our federal government.
Thank you. Let's start back with you on this next question. Assume it is morning after the primary and you won. Are you prepared to transition to winning the general election?
You know, this primary race has been a tremendous experience for me. It's really hard to run for public office when you don't have a lot of money like our senior senator does. It's really hard to spend the time and invest in meeting people up and down this state, although Delaware is probably a lot easier than a lot of other places because you can actually be in Seaford in the morning, in Dover at lunchtime, and in Claymont at night. And I think we've done that on many a day. I spent 10 days at the state fair, and it was 10 long days. But I'll tell you, I met more people at the fair that are ready and looking for change. And I think there's a couple things that are going to make this race winnable for a Republican with conservative principles and values. And that is, if the economy continues to improve, like I believe that it will, based on the tax policies of this administration, if Tom Carper continues to tack to the left and run on resistance, if his opponent were to win, Harry Harris, who is even more to the left of him, I don't think Delaware is ready for a progressive liberal representing the state of Delaware. I think this is time. It's time for us to represent the people of the state of Delaware. I said this once before. I have a very good friend. She was my mom's attorney. She said, Gene, I'm a Democrat, but I've known you your whole life, and I'm going to vote for you. But I don't believe that we are represented in Delaware. Even as a Democrat, we need to have representation on both sides of the aisle. And I firmly believe that people in Delaware are ready for change. People are ready to see Tom Carper retire. Even big D Democrats who love him think it's time for him to retire. So I think with an improving economy, with the right message, and with following and supporting this president and the administration, we have a very good chance of beating Tom Carper or maybe his opponent, Kerry Harris, who may have sweep that primary as well. Thank you.
Gene, thank you. I want to make mention here these last two questions. I apologize, I should have prefaced that. These last two questions, with the importance as the committee has told me, each candidate gets 2 minutes on these. So, Rob, instead of a 60-second, you've got a 2 minute and 2 minutes on the next question. So go ahead. Correct.
So the question was, am I prepared to shift into the general election after I win the primary? Yes? Mike, that was the question? We've never thought about the primary. What I'm saying by that is our message, your message, resonates across all Delawareans, no matter who the party person is. That's what this is about. Our platform, our message is about the people and not the party. It's plain and simple. So the answer to the question is very simply yes. The day we announced, even before I announced, we had been out traveling these roads, listening and learning what was most important to Delawareans. And that's the message that we brought to you, we continue to bring. We want economic opportunities for our families. You're tired of the struggles. I understand that. As a working person, as a small business owner, we've had the struggles. Every person, be it left or right, wants to provide for their family. Every family wants a good quality education for their family. That's what we deserve as Americans. That's what you expect as Americans. And that's the message that we continue to bring. As Delawareans, we all want affordable care. That's not what we have today. We will repeal that Affordable Care Act. It does not work. It's wrong, and it's not effective, and it's cost Delawareans many, many dollars because we only have one single payer in this state. That's unacceptable. The day I announced, back in April, I had 2 African-American black pastors standing next to me, Democrats, supporting me and endorsing me in the city of Wilmington. So the day we announced, we were focused on all of Delawareans, not Republicans, not Democrats, not independents, but this is the people's campaign. That's the difference between me and all others. I care about Delawareans and I care about the people. Thank you.
Well, start back with doing the final question before closing statements. And again, 2 minutes for each candidate. The final question from the Sussex County Republican Committee. Again, assume it is the morning after and you do not win. How will you work to help win the general election in November?
The day after, I have not thought about losing, truth be told. We've been focused on one thing, and that's winning for all Delawareans. But this is much, this is much bigger than myself or my opponent. This is critical election. This is about the country. We are very teetering right on the edge. We all understand how important it really is. This is really important for all Delawareans. We must, and we shall have a U.S. Senator that's for the people and not the party any longer. That's why we will win, is because the message is all about that. The country. How are we going to continue to prosper as a nation? Do we want an obstructionist? Or do we want a leadership in the Senate that's going to have the courage to cross all barriers to put focus back on the people? There's about a 15% approval rate right now at the U.S. Senate and in Congress. They're not doing their job. They need to come together and focus on the American people and not their partisan politics. That's what we're all about. That's this race. This is your race, is because that's what we're going to do and that's what we're going to bring. So I'm excited about moving forward after the primary, and we will ensure that we, as the Republican Party, most importantly, as Delawareans, have a U.S. Senator that will focus on them for the first time in a very long time. We are very excited about that, and we will join in that effort.
Sure. So the first thing I'll do if I do not win the primary is pick up the phone and call my opponent and say, what can I do to help you? Because this isn't about me. The reason why I decided to run is I am as frustrated as all of you that Delaware has lost its way. It grieves me, and that's not even probably a strong enough word, but it grieves me to believe that around the country they call Delaware a blue state. I don't believe that for 1 minute. We have elected Democratic officials in this state, but we're not a blue state. I saw a poll just the other day that said that Delaware, Republicans and independents generally are conservative, and our Democrats are moderate. That's not a blue state in my mind. That's not the principles that I grew up with. That's not the principles that I believe in. The principles that I believe in are the principles that probably everyone in this room believes in, and that's less federal government, less government spending, and people who are elected to solve problems to help people. So I will take my resources and give them to my opponent if I don't win the primary election, because we need to defeat Tom Carper, or in the worst case, Kerry Harris if she beats him, because that would be far worse for the state of Delaware and far worse for the rest of us. This is an important year. I've had a wonderful and blessed life. So I believe there's many things we can do in our lives when we're called to help and called to service. And that's what I want to do, is serve you, Delawareans, and serve the people in this country to help bring back conservative principles that I think we all believe in, and support this president in any way we can in order to drive these principles, which I think will bring America back again. And to use his term, yes, to make America great again. I think that's what we all want. I hope that's what we'll all do, and I hope that's how we will see the future of this country, is to be the kind of country that it was when I grew up, where everyone was courteous and kind. Thank you.
So that concludes the question part of this. We're going to begin with closing statements. Now, Rob went first on the opening statement, so Gene, you get to go first on the closing statement.
So on the note that I just gave, I think this is a very important race. It's important for the state of Delaware. It's important for all of you. And so I think it's incumbent upon you to do your homework, to look where we stand on different issues, to look and see who is the better candidate, who can beat our Democratic incumbent senior senator or his opponent if she is the one that ends up winning the nomination. Because if we don't, Delaware is going to sink deeper and deeper into this abyss that we've seen with liberal progressive values that I don't think any of us possess. So it's very important. You guys have the toughest job. You may not agree with me on every position, and I may not agree with you on every position. But in a democratic republic, you need to vote and support a person who can represent the principles that I believe in, which are conservative values, both in the size of government and in terms of less taxes and less government intervention. That's what I'll do as your representative. I'm not going to flip-flop when I go to Washington. I have been consistent at every one of these forums, and I'll leave you with one last thing. There's still several forums to be had. There's another one where actually Carrie Harris and Tom Harper have agreed to on August 20th. That's being sponsored by GATA, the Greater Hockessin Homeowners Association. And there's another one on the 27th by the News Journal, where both Tom Harper and Carrie Harris have agreed to participate. And lastly, I'll give a shameless public service announcement. On your chairs, we had a flyer for Make Delaware Red Again. We're having Dick Heller come speak. For those of you who don't know, this famous Second Amendment case is DC versus Heller. And Dick is an engaging guy. It should be fun. It's free to all of you. There is a catered dinner afterwards by Jimmy's Grill, which does have a fee. But if you want to just come and listen to Dick Heller and a few other people who believe in the Second Amendment, then come to our event on August 18th. Thank you all. I look forward to continuing to run a good race, a fair race, and a clean race, and I look forward to all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I want to thank the Sussex County Executive Committee, and Don, where are you? So let's give Don and his entire Executive Committee a great round of applause. Thank you for hosting this. I want to also thank Mike Bradley and WGND, your radio station, right, for doing this, and we're grateful for you for being here, because this is the second time we've done this. Yes. Here, I should say. And thank you all for being here. It's so important that you participate in this effort to learn about each other, learn about the policies, learn about the person you are selecting. Because this is a job interview. I see this as a job interview. That's what this is. You are hiring somebody to represent you and to represent the state at the U.S. Senate. That's what this is all about. So it's all about the resume and who is best qualified to represent you, this party, and then the state and the U.S. Senate. And to me, the differences are very clear in my mind. And that is, we are seeking the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate in Delaware. I have been a lifelong Republican. Doesn't mean I'm a party guy. There's many people in this party that don't like me, because I'm not a party guy. But I have been a registered Republican and a conservative my entire life. That's a factual. I have a record on actions and not that of talk. We know that, especially those of you in this room, as far as me being involved in this process. That's number one, lifelong Republican with a track record of conservatism. Number two is I'm a family man. I've been married for 29 years, a father of two. I understand the struggles of Delaware families. I understand struggles of American families. I understand what it means and the difficulties as it is to care for parents. Literally, 24/7. The difficulties and the challenges and financial challenges and the strain on a marriage and the strain on raising kids when you're caring for your parents. I understand that. We understand that. We are connected with you on that. A small business owner, out of scratch, other than a vision and a dream. That's what we need back in America. That's what we need back in Delawareans, is the entrepreneurship and the free spirit of small business. I understand that, and that's what we own here in Sussex County. I'm an elected official here in Sussex County. I have proven to be able to attract independents and Democrats. I have a proven track record of doing so. That's something that you all should have comfort with, because I have a track record of doing so. That's really, really important. And I'm a veteran. I was not in a war. I signed a dotted line with my father, who swore me in, which is pretty amazing for me, back in the 80s when Ronald Reagan was the president. And we were at peace, but we were prepared to go serve our country, and we did so. We are a defender of the Constitution and that Second Amendment, not just by our actions, because we raised that hand, not just by words, but by our actions. So what we bring to you is an opportunity to turn this state. I appreciate your votes. I look forward to your support on September the 6th. So engage your neighborhood and engage your friends and family and get involved in this movement to turn the state. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our forum. First, a round of applause for both our candidates tonight. Also want to thank all of you who have come out tonight on a Monday night during the summertime. We have a big primary next month, as you know. And Donna, if you'll indulge me for just a second, I just want to let folks know that at WGME, of course, we will continue to have the candidates on. And on Thursday, September the 6th at 8 o'clock, yours truly, Jake Smith and John Brady, legal analyst, Delaware political historian, will be in studio providing coverage. But I want to thank the candidates on this stage and those who are out in the audience tonight as well, and you, the listeners, for accessibility and for making this possible with the great democracy that we have. And we're going to continue to get as many people on and as much information out to you for the primary. I will now turn the mic back over to Sussex GOP Chairman Don Petimerman. Did I have that right? Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Don, very, very much.
Thank you, ladies. We do have time for some more mingling. We can go keep the hall overtime if we have to until you guys are done talking to candidates. Now, I have a request for the two candidates, and for every one of you other candidates. I want you to go home, get out your dictionary, and find the page in it that says Democratic, and then rip that page out of the dictionary and burn it. Burn it out of your brain. Don't refer to one of these guys as a Democratic candidate, because they're not Democrats. Don't further their propaganda. They are Democrats. Okay. Now, folks, we have had two great candidates here, and that's a blessing and a curse. We get to make a choice. That's a blessing and a curse. You've done the easy work tonight. You sat here and listened to a vote. Now you got to think about it and wait and cast an intelligent vote on primary day, which everybody knows is on Tuesday, right? Wrong. That's right. Primary this year, thank you, Democrat Party, is on a Thursday. Don't show up to vote on Tuesday. You want to be there on Thursday. Anything else? I guess the last thing I would say, Sussex County people, we're marked. Historically, at the African American Festival in Seaford, there's very little Democrat presence. This year, Brian Richardson's tent was surrounded by Senator Harper, his opponent, Lisa Brown Rochester, the Democrat Party. They bought booths for every Democrat candidate. And the people that came there to help them came from Newcastle County, from Pennsylvania, from New Jersey. And the reason that we know is we helped them put up their tents because they were having trouble with that. So, yes, races that you think are safe may not be safe. We all need to get every Republican that we know out to vote this time. It is so important, especially to those statewide candidates. With that, thank you very much. Get about the campaigning. Don't forget